Today we have a very special guest with us, Member of Parliament Jenny Kwan. Assalamu alaikum. I am Ahmed Ramadan from Muslim Network TV, and this is GTA Muslims Today. Jenny Kwan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So before we get started, I wanted to ask you a question that's on everybody's mind. Were you able to stay up for all 18 innings of the Blue Jays game the other day?
Most of it. I can't say I was up for all of it, but it sure as heck was exciting.
Yeah, I passed out around the 12th inning. I know some of my friends that slept earlier that wake up early. The game was still going on, so yeah, it was quite the entertainment that night. But on a more serious note, I know you've introduced a bill, a private member's bill, addressing what many organizations, broad coalitions have been asking for the Canadian government, which is they want to close the loopholes on arms being transferred to Israel. And I wanted to ask you, what were you hoping to accomplish with this bill? Why did you take this on?
Well, the bill that I've introduced in the House of Commons, Bill C-233, is a private member's bill. And members of parliament are allowed to have their name thrown into a draw after each election. And the speaker will pick out the names in the order in which he's picking them out in. And then on that basis, you would be able to introduce a private member's bill or motion that would be debated in the House of Commons and be voted on. Of course, out of the draw of 338 members of parliament, you need to be drawn earlier on in order for that process to succeed. And so anyway, waiting after 10 years, I finally got a draw where I'm within the top 30 members of parliament that could actually introduce a bill or a motion that could be debated and voted on in the House of Commons. And I've chosen this issue, and that is to close the loophole on the arms export in Canada. Right now, as it stands, Canada signed onto the Arms Trade Treaty back in 2019. However, in that process, the United States was exempt from having to meet the permitting process and requirements. They simply just get to ship their arms from Canada to the United States, primarily with few exceptions, no questions asked. And so that is a giant loophole that exists right now within our current export permits for arms. And what we're finding, of course, with that giant loophole, arms components, parts, and weaponry is making its way to countries that are utilized against crimes against humanity, against human rights, and various different kinds of war crimes, and in some cases even to perpetuate a genocide. And so, Canada then, in that sense, is complicit in these war crimes. We're in violation of the Arms Trade Treaty, to which we're a part of, that we have signed on to. And the only way to deal with that is to close that loophole. And so that's why I've introduced my bill, Bill C-233, to say there are no countries that can be exempt from the process of requiring a permit for both the export as well as the bunkering of part components and weaponry.
So, we've done a little bit of digging into this, and there's been many reports that have come out that have spoken about this, articles and organizations that have released reports. Were you surprised, like I was, for the basically almost free-for-all that happens between Canada and US when it comes to weapons?
Well, I was shocked to learn that Canada, from our country, weaponry, parts and components, technology is being exported to the United States, and from there is rerouted to different countries in violation of the Arms Trade Treaty. And really, Canada, in allowing this to happen, is turning a blind eye and is being complicit in these war crimes, in these crimes against humanity, in these crimes against basic human rights. And it needs to stop. I think a lot of Canadians don't realize that. I sure as heck wasn't until all these reports start to show that that is the case. And in fact, the Canadian government don't even provide really good, transparent reporting of the arms export. And so, we cannot claim that we're a country that stands up for basic human rights, and claim proudly that we are a signatory to the Arms Trade Treaty when in fact we violated itself. And so the way forward to address that is to stop the loopholes. And so in my bill, there's a provision that says no countries will be exempt from having to acquire a permit. And so that means any export that comes out of Canada to any country for that matter, whether it's the United States or otherwise, it will be required to go through the rigorous permitting process, and so that we can ensure accountability and transparency.
So every human rights organization, every relevant one that's mainstream human rights organization, um, many genocide scholars have called what's taking place, Israel is committing a genocide. And even the ICJ have said that it's a plausible genocide. Do you think that the Canadian government has done enough in order to um, minimize or halt at least their complicity in what is taking place?
Well, clearly they have not. The government and the government members can barely utter the word genocide with what has been going on, and so clearly they do not acknowledge it. The Conservatives, by the way, won't acknowledge it either. But we all know what is happening, and scholars have acknowledged it. The matter is before the international courts, and so what Canada needs to do, of course, is to stand up for basic human rights, right, and be the country that has actually been so strong historically in trying to broker peace, being that sort of middle power country that stood up for basic human rights and fairness and justice. We have sort of lost our way, to be honest with you, for a long time now. And then on the question around complicity, is not just recognizing and acknowledging violations with the ICJ, with countries in violation, as pointed out by the ICJ, but also Canada has a very specific role to play here with our own domestic policy, and that would be the export of arms, whether it be in parts and components or whole weaponry or the technology associated with it. We need to make sure that export, the arms export from Canada, do not violate international law, do not violate the Arms Trade Treaty, do not perpetuate war crimes. And right now, we are allowing that to happen. The Canadian government is allowing that to happen. And weaponry, parts and components, technology is being exported from Canada and to the United States, where there is no permitting requirements for the most part with those exports. And then once these items are exported from Canada to the United States, they find their way to countries such as Israel, where they're, uh, where a genocide was happening right before our eyes, where civilians, children, women are being killed and maimed, and that's just got to stop. It's got to stop, and Canada cannot be a part of that. I don't believe Canadians want us to be complicit in these crimes against humanity. I don't think Canadians want us to have any part to do with a genocide. And so that's why my bill is so important. And it is a simple bill, by the way. I gave the legislative drafters a simple instruction, and that is to say to close the loophole with Canada's arms export. I do not want Canada to be complicit in violation of our signatory to the Arms Trade Treaty. I do not want Canada to be complicit again, on war crimes, on crimes against humanity. And so, to that end, The drafters came back with draft legislation in my bill, and that basically outlines clearly the language in the Arms Trade Treaty, what it means, and then to say that no country would be exempted from the vigorous process that is required for them to get a permit to export arms.
So a recent poll that came out said the majority of Canadians, actually over 60% of them, view what is taking place as a genocide. I know among Liberal voters, it's over 80%. I imagine with NDP voters, it's even to higher. How could our viewers that are watching support your efforts?
Call them members of parliament, particularly the government members, the conservative members as well. All of the NDP members and the Green members are fully in support of my private members bill, and they want Canada's complicity to end. But the Liberal members of parliament and the conservative members of parliament are not there. So I would ask your viewers to please contact your member of parliament and to call on them to do the right thing, and to remind them this will come to a vote, and their name will be recorded in perpetuity in history on whether or not they are willing to take action at this moment in time. And it matters for Israel, but it's not just Israel, Saudi Arabia, other countries as well. It doesn't matter what country it is where these crimes against humanity is being done. Canada cannot be complicit. Our arms cannot be used to rain down terror on civilians, on children, on women, and that has to end. So I would demand action from their member of parliament. In addition to that, there's also a petition that's circulating, and I would ask people to sign that petition. I want to show up in the House of Commons to table this petition to say tens of thousands of people have signed on to this petition calling for action.
Yeah, even Senator Wu has introduced a motion in the Senate about Canada's complicity in genocide. I know Canada has been mentioned in the new UN report about its complicity in genocide. So what you're saying is really relevant to what's also unfolding right now, basically in front of our eyes at the moment. I wanted to switch the topic just a little bit very briefly. I know a lot of people in the groups that I'm in the circles that I'm in, really support the NDP. Yet we saw in the last federal election that people really voted more in fear as opposed to who they believed in. What do you hope for the NDP's future right now?
Well, I think in the last election, it was devastating. There's no question for the NDP. We lost many of my good colleagues who really worked so hard on behalf of their community. They did not return to the House of Commons. With that being said, there are 7 of us, and what we have to do, of course, is to rebuild the party. We're engaging in a leadership process. But most importantly, from my perspective, we need to go back to our roots. We need to go back to, the grassroots community and to build our party back up. And so that's where there's a lot of work ahead of us. And then I also want to say to people as well, your voice matter, your vote count. Vote with your heart when the election is called. Because why is that important? I sort of take this perspective. We can't operate out of fear. You can only operate from your heart and where your beliefs are and where your values are, where it takes you. And if you do that, you can hold your head up high and feel proud. I feel proud that that's what I'm doing. So, so don't let people persuade you to act differently out of fear. And in the House of Commons, to be frank, it's true that we're not forming government at this moment in time. Although I think when we do, Canadians will have the best government in its history, such as in other occasions when we had other NDP governments provincially, we actually achieved a lot of things. But even in a minority government situation, the NDP was able to achieve things for Canadians. If people think back with Tommy Douglas as an example, we have our universal healthcare system. It only exists because of the CCF NDP, because of Tommy Douglas, dubbed as the father of Medicare by CBC, that brought Medicare to Canadians. And we try to finish that job actually in the last minority government with dental care and pharmacare as an example. Canadians, I think, need the NDP to be in the House of Commons to fight for you. Because a lot of things that we advance, nobody will show up to fight for you, such as Bill C-233 to close the loophole. Liberals and conservatives know that that loophole exists. Have they done anything about it? No, they haven't. Is an NDP member who's bringing forward this private member's bill after waiting 10 years to get an allocation and finally got that draw. And I'm tabling that bill because it is important to humanity. It is important to the international community. It is important to Canadians and to our own soul to know that we are not complicit, that we are not part of the terror that's raining down on civilians, killing children, killing women, and being part of a genocide.
So just to end it on a lighter note and bring it full circle, what is your prediction? Do the Jays win their first World Series in the next 2 days in 32 years?
Go Blues, Jay, go. Absolutely. I think they're going to do it.
MP Jenny Kwan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I'm Ahmed Ramadan for Muslim Network TV, and this is GTA Muslims Today. Please like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more exclusive interviews. Salam.